All right, number 3 on our list, we have Ryan O'Reilly, who, of course, was picked up by your Toronto Maple Leafs at the deadline, along with Noel Acciari in a deal with the St. Louis Blues. And O'Reilly was a big factor. His nickname, by the way, is Factor, and so he played great for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he's a guy that's getting older. The offensive production has certainly fallen off a little bit. But I think on a contending team or a team looking to take the next step and get into the postseason, he could be the perfect third-line center, I think, in my opinion. Big fan of this player and just such a reliable veteran. So he's number 3 on our list. What is happening with Ryan O'Reilly, and is he returning to the Maple Leafs, Chad?
Yeah, so the 32-year-old Ryan O'Reilly, you said you were a little bit worried about the production. For me, I'm less worried about the production and a little bit more worried about the foot speed, especially if he's going to be a guy who keeps playing down the middle, whether it's in the top 6 or the bottom 6 for a team. Just because when he played in Toronto and watching him every game, like, he was able to get on the scoreboard, especially on the power play, just being a guy out front of the net. The problems came when the puck went the other way. And even though he's a great defensive center and is most of the time in the right position, when he's out of position, you know it, because he's not going to get to that right position for a while because his foot speed has declined so much. But I mean, I mentioned that the production was still there. He had 9 points in 11 playoff games with Toronto, and he has 65 points in 75 playoff games in his career. So he's still able to put up points. Just like I said, the foot speed is something I'm a little bit concerned with. However, I will say that I think he is still the current best centerman on the market right now in UFAs, anyways, among UFAs. I don't know if there's a better one out there. Even a guy like Jonathan Toews, I don't think he is close to what Ryan O'Reilly is anymore. I think Toews has slowed down even more. Might get $1 million or $2 to play on a 4th line somewhere this year if he plays, but I think Ryan O'Reilly is kind of the big fish, and for that reason, I don't have him coming back to Toronto. I don't think the Leafs will be able to afford him. So I have Ryan O'Reilly getting paid $6 million for 5 years, going back to St. Louis. St. Louis being a team who, for the next couple years, would be okay with overpaying Ryan O'Reilly a little bit. I don't think it hurts them that much because I think their competitive window has closed and they're now on that retool grind, which will be another couple years until they're competitive again. And I think as we sit right now, Ryan O'Reilly is still about a $5 million player. And to me, it doesn't make sense for him to stay in Toronto. Someone's going to overpay him. I think it'll be St. Louis. They know the guy. He would be a great leader for some of the younger players coming in there as they go through their retool. And then in a few years, when he's still making, a little bit too much money, I think they're okay with it because the cap has gone up another $10 million and $6 million is the new, $3.5 million. So that's what I think. This one is a little bit crazy for me because the dollar amount AAV is so high, but he is a good player. He still produces at a pretty good clip, albeit a lot of it is on the power play. The foot speed has declined, but still a good player, man. So what do you think about that deal? Going back to St. Louis?
Well, I think it's definitely possible, even with the addition of Kevin Hayes to the St. Louis Blues. But this has been rumored out there for a while that he would like to go back to St. Louis, and I'm sure that the Blues would love to have him back. I mean, he won the Conn Smythe Trophy in that 2019 Cup run, so I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that they would overpay him. It is a little bit of a drop from his $7.5 million cap hit, which of course is going to happen, but not much. He's still a good player, and I can see that. The fit's there, the familiarity and everything, and we know what we know about Doug Armstrong is that he he kind of reset at the deadline, but he wants to be right back in it next season, rightly or wrongly. And, they want to be a playoff team again, and bringing back a guy that meant so much to that organization as Ryan O'Reilly. And I mean, it's no question that they weren't the same without him when they lost him. He was the captain of that team, the leader. And so I could see it, man, definitely. And I do agree that he's probably the best center available on the UFA market.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got O'Reilly going to kind of an interesting team, and kind of like St. Louis, rightly or wrongly, this team is not looking to go into a big long rebuild. They want to be competitive and make the playoffs next season. So I have O'Reilly going to the Vancouver Canucks. And yeah, I know you're laughing at this one, but look, I mean, it's out there that Vancouver is desperately looking for a third line center, and I think that he could be a perfect fit. I mean, it's a matter of whether or not O'Reilly would want to go there. I'm sure he wants to win another championship, and certainly Vancouver isn't close, but as we've seen with a team like Florida, they had the goaltender, man, who kind of who carried them. And so if Thatcher Demko can, stay healthy and get back to that number one stud goaltender that we've seen in the past, who knows? Vancouver could go on a run. And God, I hate saying that, but we know how they think, again, rightly or wrongly. So I've got O'Reilly going there on a bit of a shorter term deal. I've got him going for around $4.5 to $5 million times 3 years, going to the Vancouver Canucks. And so with the Ekman-Larsson buyout, and they're probably not going to be qualifying Ethan Bear. I mean, we'll see, but it doesn't look like they will be. They've got a little over $12 million in cap space as of right now. So you could bring in a guy like O'Reilly to fill that third line center role. Maybe you send out a guy like Connor Garland or Anthony Beauvillier, who both make a little over $4 million to give yourself some extra space, because as we know, Elias Pettersson is up in a year, and that deal is going to be massive. But I think that given that third line center need, I think O'Reilly would be a great fit in Vancouver, and the fact that they want to be competitive and be in the playoffs next year, again, rightly or wrongly, it's just a matter of, would O'Reilly be willing to go to a team like Vancouver?
Yeah, while I think it's a good fit for the team, I don't think it's a good fit for the player. I don't think he would be interested in going to Vancouver. I mean, a lot could change, who knows? And maybe they make him an offer that he can't refuse, and it's the highest offer, and he just goes to the highest bidder, or whoever gives him the most term. But I just don't see it happening, especially for $4.5 million, because I think at that price on a 3-year deal, the Leafs would probably keep him, to be honest. Because
yeah, fair enough.
At $4.5 million to be your 3C, like everybody talks about the Leafs cap situation, how they're in a bit of a squeeze. They're really not. They have a ton of money to spend this year, especially if they move Matt Murray and don't buy him out, and just move him, including a pick as a sweetener. Well, there's your 4.5 right there, and that could be Ryan O'Reilly. So if it's that low, I think Toronto keeps him. I don't think they go over a number like 5.5, and I especially don't think they want to go term on it as well. But the reason that I thought he could get something like 6x6 is because he's currently 32. If he only gets 3 years, he's going to be 35, and then he's not going to be able to cash in again. He's going to have to sign a 1-year deal, 2-year deal. So I would assume the player is going to want term to secure him somewhere until the end of his career. If that's not the case, I'll be shocked, but crazier things have happened. But yeah, just to reiterate, I think if it's 4.5 times 3, the Leafs do that in a heartbeat. That's an Alex Kerfoot deal, basically. That's an inflated Alex Kerfoot deal. He was making 3.5 times 4 back when the salary cap was a couple $1 million less. So And,
Right.
next year it's only going up by $1 million. The following year, we're expecting around $4 million, between 4 and 5. Same thing the year after that, between 4 and 5. So over this next 3-year period, it could go up as much as $11 million. And if that's the case, you're fine if you're the Leafs to pay Ryan O'Reilly 4.5. If it's more than that and he wants term, fine. Let him walk. He'll go somewhere else. Someone will overpay him, especially because he's the top center on the market right now. But yeah, so that's my thought on Vancouver. I don't know if I see it working for the player, although if you're the team, that's exactly the type of player you want, because ownership wants to compete right away. And they just lost Bo Horvat, so they need someone to fill that center depth. So
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I could see O'Reilly getting along really well with Rick Tocchet. I could see that being a really good relationship. But again, it's dollars. And again, I could see Vancouver being a team that would overpay for Ryan O'Reilly. We know what they've been like in free agency in the past. So, but it's a matter of dollars and term and whether or not he'd want to go there. But anyway, I like the fit for that team.